exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Hey, Tim Schwartz, you want to see my scrapbook of old photos?
Sure. Are these family shots? Your grandparents? Cousins? Is this your family tree?
Oh, heck no, not at all. Something downright spooky and weird.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
It's photos of spirits of the dead. Ghosts. People have gone beyond the pale.
Well, I thought all those pictures from the ages of spiritualism were just proven to be fake, baloney.
Oh, I can see you're a fan of Houdini. That's not true at all. They could be the real thing, and I think one of our guests will try to prove it this evening.
Oh, wow, wait a minute. There's my Aunt Celie. That sure looks like her, but she's been passed over for over 50 years now.
There you go. See, I told you there was something to this.
No, seriously, there she is.
How you out there in Jasper?
Oh, well, it's another beautiful evening in Jasper. The kids went off to school for the first time today, so all is good in my world.
Isn't it true that the Brady Bunch live next door to you?
I hope not. I don't think they could handle the likes of our family.
Oh boy, well, I don't know. I hear their house went for what, several $1 million?
Yeah. Well, HGTV bought it.
All right. Well, there you go.
The cable network.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to prove you there's something in a name, just like our name, your name, and my name. I'm sure we could get a couple of $1 million for use of our name, right, Tim? Well,
yeah, sure. I'm waiting for that.
Well, enough of this chatter, because we want to bring our guest on right away because it gets some very interesting things to say, and I'm looking forward to talking personally with your Aunt Silly. Is that her name?
Aunt Celie, yeah.
Oh, Celie. I think you said
Celie, yeah.
All right. Anyway, why did you tell our audience who we're going to be speaking with tonight?
Oh, well, it'll be my pleasure. Well, we've got a couple of great guests tonight. First of all, we have Daryl Edgell. Now, Daryl is a photographer who grew up listening to his mother and her sisters talk about seeing the apparition of their deceased brother. So now we got to find out about that story. So obviously there was, something in the family genes there, because it wasn't until Daryl was about 19 years old and living in Bethel, Ohio, that he had his first encounter with the unknown. One night while he was cooking dinner, a little girl stepped out of the back bedroom and approached him. He said that she was about 4 or 5 years old, and he could see right through her. She stood right in front of him, looking straight in the eyes before she disappeared. Now, how weird is that? Later that evening, while watching television with his girlfriend, the ghostly girl made another appearance. Daryl says that they continued to be haunted by the little girl until they moved away 5 years later. I'm surprised she didn't want to move along with them. Since then, Edgell says that he's been on the hot pursuit on seeing another apparition and filming it. He searched in places such as Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and the East Coast. He says that he has spent 38 years ghost hunting and will never get tired of it. I have spent so much time on it, he says, that it's just a big part of me. So now also with us tonight is Dean Knight, a.k.a. the Kentucky Ghost Hunter. Dean obviously doesn't live too far away from me. Now, hunting may be a strong word, he says, but accurate. There's something out there that we do not understand. We know it's there, but because of the limited knowledge, our understanding of it becomes complicated. almost impossible. Now, Dean says that he goes places with the understanding that these things do exist, and that he doesn't need to investigate the likelihood of that existence. He uses hunting techniques to find or bring to unknown to him. And then once he has it, he says, I am determined to prove exactly what it is. That goes bump in the night. Now, Dean says that any person can ask for help and that he has a network of people who deal in the paranormal globally. So he says, don't be afraid to ask. I can get you help. So, Dean, Daryl, thank you very much for being with us tonight on Exploring the Bizarre.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. So,
well,
who do you want to start with here? Do you want to start with Daryl, Tim?
Yeah, let's start with Daryl.
Okay, I think that Daryl, the story that you said in your biography about your mother and your sister talking about seeing their deceased brother, that just fascinated me, and I want to know a little bit more details about that. Do you remember what was going on with what they were seeing, or did they tell you?
Yes, they did. They actually told me that they were in bed at night, and their deceased brother had walked into their bedroom and sat down on the bed beside them. And it was their brother, and he was a full apparition, and he was transparent. And they saw him several times in their younger years.
So they were pretty young when they saw him.
Yes, they were in their teens when they saw it, actually.
That had to have been pretty freaky for them.
Well, yeah, I would imagine. When I saw my apparition, I just didn't know what to do. I was standing there. My knees started buckling. That's the first time I've ever experienced anything like that. And I know that she knew that she was freaking me out, and I could sense that, and she could sense that she was, doing that. And she turned around and walked away. So I never said anything to anyone. And my ex-girlfriend and I, we were sitting on the couch watching TV, and she came out of the kitchen area and into the living room, and wow, my girlfriend, she just went all to pieces. But it wasn't very long until we started feeling like she was part of the family. And I'll tell you what, to this day, 38 years later, I miss her, and I would love to see her again. She was a normal 4-year-old. She was playful. She would run her fingers through my hair at night. She loved touching me on the shoulder, and she would get a big kick out of pulling the covers right off the bed. I mean, that was all the time. And she was just a normal, playful little kid. But she could only stay visible for about 3 to 5 minutes out of the time at a time. But she would appear probably a half a dozen times out of the day.
Wow.
But that happened for 5 years until we moved to Kentucky. And I'll tell you, I miss her. Boy, would I love to see her again.
Well, what kind of place were you living at? I mean, was it a like apartment building, an older house, or what?
It was an old, early 1900s apartment building in Bethel, Ohio, and I've been trying my best to find the history on that place. I don't know if something happened, if the child had died there, or spirits. They can be in and around a building or a site many years, pre-1900s. It's hard telling what dimension she came from. But I've been trying to find out if I can go back to Bethel, Ohio, and spend a couple nights in that apartment just to see if I can film her and talk to her and see what I can get. If I knew then what I know now about spirits and ghost hunting, oh man, there's no doubt, buddy.
Oh yeah, hindsight's always 2020, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now was it because of this experience? Is that what got you interested in the paranormal?
Yes, it is. After she had left out of our lives, I knew that there was other spirits out there, and I was going to search high and low for the next full apparition. And I've come close. I've come close to filming a lot of different things. I've seen monks in southern Texas. I see actually spirits and orbs flying through the air. Now, my partner, Linda Wolfley, she works at River Edge Hospital. She and I have been doing this together. She's been doing this now for a year and a couple months. And she's a big part of this ghost hunting expedition up here in Chicago. A lot of the pictures that we've taken and that's in some of our books came from her, and we've been out in the cemeteries in the cold and the 0-degree weather, ghost hunting, and she's a real trooper, and I just got to thank her and her efforts in hunting with me. But it's just amazing the spirits that we have found. Now, we have honestly, now this might sound crazy, but we feel like there's this one cemetery that we go to. We feel like the spirits there are our friends. Now, it might sound crazy. We have got, okay, where the cemetery is about 5 minutes from where we live. So we visit it all the time. And I know for a fact, as I'm sitting here, that we have visited that cemetery over 300 times. That's a fact. And we have gotten to where we could say, hit the back of the car, do whatever, and they will do it. We speak to them just like I'm talking to the audience right now. Mm-hmm. They respond. They are not dumb. They are very smart individuals. We've heard a woman talk in the front seat right in between us. We have seen light shows out there that's just out of this world. The smoke, the spirit smoke, we have so much of that in pictures that it's just unbelievable. And we really have a rapport with these spirits. And I believe if you are in the paranormal, ghost hunting, it is imperative to actually friend these people if you can. You will absolutely, and I'm telling you, you will absolutely get positive results if you do that.
Now, I guess I always figured that cemeteries would be the least haunted of locations. I mean, I would understand, locations where maybe somebody had an emotional attachment to, or maybe a place where somebody died unpleasantly.
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't think that people would be spending a lot of time hanging around where their body used to be. Or
Yes,
not where they used to be, but where their body is currently.
right. I understand. Yeah, I had thought about that, when I first started in this, but there are so many. Now, St. Augustine, Florida, is another place that's very haunted. 1565 is when it was founded, and it's just amazing that the spirit world is just absolutely just crazy there, especially in
Isn't
the.
there, yeah, isn't there an old hotel there that's, I think I was there years ago. It's painted pink. You know that
Yeah,
one?
yes. That's very haunted, and the St. Augustine Lighthouse is another one that's haunted. I have taken EVPs there and EMF readings, and they just spiked off the charts. Down in the uh, basement of the lighthouse,
Hmm.
and there in the bottom of, well, it's a long area, or a cannon is. I have been attacked 3 times, 3 different places, 3 different times there, and it would actually get on top of my back and just seemed like it was choking me to death. It was driving the air out of my lungs, and I would have to leave out of that area to regain composure. There's something in there that just isn't right.
But now, why do you think that you were attacked like that?
I really don't know. I have been trying to talk to it, take pictures, and all 3 times that I would go there, it would just get on my back and just try to drive the air right out of me. Now I don't know if anyone else has had that experience there, but something is just very heavy there that it's just not right.
Now, how many would you say? I mean, you've been involved in a lot of cases. How many cases would you say are of benevolent ghosts, and others that are like this one? I mean, outside of poltergeist cases, we don't hear about too many cases. I mean, the overwhelming majority of them just seem to be either wandering spirits or something that exists in another dimension or parallel universe, or however you want to explain the phenomena.
That one in St. Augustine, Florida, and there was one other, and that was here in Chicago, probably 6 months ago or so. We were out in the cemetery, and something just didn't seem right. I was apprehensive of going into a certain area, and I drove around for a while, and every time I go by there, something would just about make me sick to my stomach. And I said to myself, okay, you are an investigator of the paranormal. You got to get your butt out there and see what it is. Well, I made myself go out there, and there were some dark entities out there. And one actually followed us home, and I was cooking one night, and something just made me stab myself on the friggin' hand a couple times, and I still got the scar in my hand. I mean, it just made me take my hand and just stab myself. And so Linda and myself, we got together and we made it. We made it leave. We got in the car and we told it, "You've got to get out of here. You're not wanted. You've got to get out of our lives." So we did go back to the cemetery, and it did leave. And we never had any more problems with that at all. But I was talking to a lady. She is going to be a client, and she has paranormal activities. She has poltergeist activities, and she's experiencing some of the things that that I have, and I keep holy water with me at all times, and I told her, I said, maybe keeping some holy water around and dispersing it around, when these things happen might help. Either that, or you might need to get a priest or something. And
well, how do you know it's dark energy?
I can see it. Linda and myself, we can actually see the spirits. We can see the ghosts. That's how come we have hundreds of pictures of ghosts and smoke is because we can see it. And I see dark energy quite a bit, not only out in the cemetery, but other places. And I can actually see the entity itself. And I try my best to keep away from it. And, I keep the holy water with me that I get at a local Catholic church. And so far, go ahead.
Well, I just have to ask a question. If I'm a spirit, why do I want to haunt a cemetery?
That's a good question.
Of course it is. and don't be shy about answering it.
Honestly, I'm going to play the dumb person. I really don't know. But I know I've found more entities in most cemeteries than I do at most haunted forts, haunted hotels, places that are known haunted.
The most haunted place I ever visited, they had like hundreds of EVPs in there, was a bordello. And I can't remember the name of the town, but we shot a segment on UFOs in the town, which had nothing to do with the bordello. But they had more EVP, and the woman stayed there for an hour who was running the place. They had recreated the the hotel going back to the day 1840, 50, whatever it was. And I mean, unless the EVPs were all hoax, then I don't see why. If you're going to hoax a EVP, maybe do one or two. You're not going to come out with why spend all the time to do dozens and dozens? Very, very spooky. I don't know. Upstairs was a bordello. Downstairs was a bakery.
All right. Well, we've got our own EVPs coming up here in just a few seconds. So we'll go to our break and we'll be back with more Exploring the Bizarre.
Now back to Exploring the Bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal. Your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
And welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. And tonight we're talking about ghost hunting and paranormal photography. I know that's something that I've been fascinated with for quite a long time. I know I've told Tim before my own experience when I tried to use a video camera years and years ago to interview some people at a poltergeist haunting. The batteries just drained in an instant. And, of course, at that time, that would have been the early 1980s. Nobody really knew about that kind of phenomena, but I tell you, it was really disappointed when that happened. But we're going to bring Dean Knight, the Kentucky ghost hunter, into the conversation now. So, Dean, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Just been sitting back here waiting to get on air.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to say before we get on with the interview, my family, at least on my father's side, was from Kentucky, from Shelbyville. I don't know how close that is to where you are, but my grandfather had an experience apparently behind the barn, and he never told. He only talked about this once, and then he refused to discuss the subject again. He was a very devout Baptist, and Baptists, as a rule, don't believe in ghosts. And if they do believe in spirits, well, then they have to be usually demonic in nature. Anyway, he was behind the barn one evening, as I understand it, and he ran into, or maybe he was almost run into by a headless horseman. In fact, I want to ask you, there are any number of cases involving headless horsemen, why they seem to pop up from time to time. Now, I understand in this particular incident involving my grandfather that there had been a skirmish between the North and the South there, and apparently the skirmish had, the soldier's head had been blown off by a cannonball. Anyway, that's the story. He never talked about it. I never talked to him directly. That was just word of mouth that was passed down through the family tree.
Yeah. That's a good story, though.
No, it is indeed. Anyway, why don't you tell us how did you get involved in all of this, in ghost hunting, and what's the difference between a Kentucky ghost hunter, if any, and anybody else from Ohio or Pennsylvania?
Well, from what I understand, it's just a good name, Kentucky Ghost Hunter. I'm about like everybody else, I suppose.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it was back in 1999. I got involved in ghost hunting kind of by accident. Somebody asked me to go out with them to a cemetery in Mammoth Cave and take some pictures of a cemetery out there. And we went out there and were goofing off for a while, and we caught some what they call orbs. And at first we didn't really know what they were. I just thought it was basically water drops or bugs or something like that we took a picture of. And lo and behold, we sent it to a professional photographer expert, and he came back saying he didn't know what it was, and he blew it up. And it was a funny looking, I guess the best way to describe it looked like a flower floating in the air once you blew it up, except it was neon green. And that was my first official experience with an orb. And since then I've been just doing some different things, and somebody said, "Hey, you're from Kentucky and you're a ghost hunter. You must be the Kentucky Ghost Hunter." And ever since then, the name just stuck with me. And it's 2018. I'm still going strong hunting ghosts.
And how many ghosts have you hunted?
Probably quite a bit. I guess my experiences have been a little bit different. Like I said, I've been sitting back during the break. I said I was biting my lip for a little bit here because there was a question asked about why spirits are in cemeteries, and it's a theory of mine based on. I'm going to answer it from my perspective because it's
absolutely
interesting. But what I have found, I've been to a lot of different places. Bobby Mackey's, been to some Edinburgh Asylum up in Iowa. We just got back from it. To make a long story short, everywhere I've ever went, we've experienced, and I've always asked the question, well, why are spirits here? Why in the heck do they stick around? It doesn't make any sense. Why are they in cemeteries? And why is there always more than one? And from what I've experienced, it seems like there's always a dominant spirit involved somewhere, a spirit that's a little bit more powerful than everybody else. And my group and myself have experienced a circumstance where we would try to talk to spirit. It would talk to us through a spirit box or through EVPs, and then it would just shut up. And we couldn't figure out what it was. But my theory is, and we've nicknamed them wardens, is we believe that there is an entity there that is stronger than the rest of them. I personally don't believe spirits are here on their own free will. I think if they can move on, they will. And I think the weaker spirits are sometimes trapped in areas like cemeteries and haunted houses and places like Bobby Mackey's and places like that because they don't have the strength to escape. And this entity we call a warden is holding them there and won't let them go. So when that question was asked, why do spirits stay in the cemetery? From my experience, that's one of the reasons. We have a cemetery up here in Kentucky. It's in Ohio County that we go to several times. We've not really had good experiences there. We've caught things, but we've had people that's been scratched. We've got threatening EVPs and stuff like that there. And it's always, when we do find a entity there that is basically friendly, it seems to be shut up and then somebody takes over. So that's just some examples of what we found in areas and why the spirits, to us.
What does the EVP say?
Well, let's just say one with the EVP, just as an example, we would hear a little child say, "I'm going to kill Iva." Now, you have to understand that wasn't a threatening EVP. What it was is like if a child would say, drop somebody's toy in the south, say, "I'm going to kill you for doing that." Well, that's what it sounded like. It was friendly. But then another EVP we'd say quiet or hush or something like that, and then we were dead. We didn't hear anything else for a long time. So in every instance we've seen something like that, there's been an entity that's told somebody to stop or go away or just basically shut up, and we've, at that instance, our evidence quits. So it's just it's just a theory we've got, and it's a theory that's been working out quite well. We've had an instance up in it's in Franklin, Kentucky, in Simpson County. It's called the Octagon Hall up there. If there's anybody here who wants to go investigate a place, they need to go there. It used to be a Civil War hospital, but we've used a X-cam out there and a couple other things, and we've captured the stick figure of a lady, and it's actually on our YouTube page. But she's very friendly, and then some other entity shows up and she disappears. And we believe that entity, we had a medium there and a psychic at the same time. They told me the guy didn't like us too much, basically me didn't like too much, and he was determined that we weren't going to talk to anybody there. So those are just some of the experiences we have. That's why I'm saying, with the cemetery part, when that question was asked, there's a good chance that in most circumstances that the entities don't want to be there, but they're forced to stay there, in my opinion anyway.
Well, now, who do you think this dominating force is?
Well, it's usually just somebody that's more powerful than the rest of them. I believe there's a power in each of us, and when you pass on, somebody that's passed on before it's just like if you play a sport. Use that as an example. If you go out and play sports when you're 3 years old, you're doing good, and when you get to be 31 or something like that, you're doing great. You learn what to do with your abilities, and I think these spirits that are wardens have learned what to do with their abilities. And then when other spirits come on that do not have the same knowledge, they're actually trapped there because he won't let them, or he, she, or it, whatever it is, won't let them move on.
What's the most haunted place you've ever visited?
Well, I have to admit, the most haunted place just happened to me in Iowa, which is Edinburgh, and we had some experiences there. One I won't talk about because I promised I wouldn't, but I've actually, two of our individuals witnessed an apparition there. I was one of them, and it shocked the heck out of me. I was walking upstairs from the basement, and I turned to look to the right, and there was a man standing there. He was fully dressed, and he was looking at a door, and as soon as I turned and looked at him, he just disappeared. And I said a few cuss words, and when I do that, they knew something was wrong. My crew did, and they asked me what was wrong. I said, there's a man that was standing right there. But we've had some experiences there, and let's just say this, at the end of the night, I was outside with one of the crew members, calming them down, and the rest of the crew was quickly getting the equipment to get out of there. So that was probably one of the scariest places we've ever been to. And I think there, too, we were dealing with a warden, because you have to understand, Edinburgh, at one time, when it first started, it was a poorhouse, which meant that, back in the Depression, if you didn't have anywhere to go or survive, you went to this place that was a farmhouse, and that you would work for your food and board by farming the land. And then it eventually became a sort of like a YMCA on the bottom half of it, and on the top half, it became what they called an insane asylum. But you got to understand, back in the day of insane asylum, you could have a bipolar, and they considered you being insane sometimes.
Oh,
a lot of people in there.
Torture. I mean,
yeah, it was. And they had, I guess, they had over 185 confirmed deaths at this place. A lot of them were suicides from the second floor, and it was because people were put in there that shouldn't have been put in there, and they, depression, they committed suicide. So the whole place is filled with a lot of negative energy, especially upstairs, and we felt it severely when we went there this past week.
Boy, if I were a spirit, I would want to get the hell out of there. I don't think I'd want to be.
That's my whole point. Now, think about it. If you're a spirit, why would you stay there? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you put yourself in a position to spend eternity in a place like that if you could leave? The point is, I just don't think they can leave. Well,
here's a question for you. Where do spirits go? I mean, suppose you break out of that, or you're not in that, that atmosphere of being held captive somewhere. Do you go to the Summerland? Do you go to heaven? Do you go to hell? Do you go to a parallel universe? Are you reincarnated?
I think that's the $50 question, because we don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things in the paranormal world that a lot of people will say, oh, I'm an expert, I'm a professional, I know everything there is to know, and they really don't know anything. Kevin Quatman, which works with me at Stone Creek Preternatural, and I work with a bunch of different groups, but we were sitting down one time, he said, do me a favor, he said, draw a big circle on a piece of paper, And I did that, and he said, okay, that's all the knowledge of the universe and then the paranormal world and everything. And he said, now how much knowledge do you think we have right now? And I could only draw a little dot in the middle of it because we hardly know anything that's going on. We act like we do and we think we do, but the truth is sometimes we can get to dangerous positions because we're fooling with stuff we don't understand. And if the bio you guys read is from an article I did in a newspaper, and there was more to that interview than before, but what I specifically told them was that we have to be careful about what we're dealing with, because what we think we're dealing with, we may not be, and we could be getting into some serious trouble. Because nobody knows what a spirit is. We think we do. We have an idea what it is, but 100 years ago, science thought that the universe was made of plasma. Now they know it's dark matter. Things change. You think you may know one thing one day, and the next thing everything changes because of a new discovery. And I think at this point we're at a phase of discovery. Just like we're going into a new world, we don't really know what we're dealing with, and we need to kind of fall back and be careful about what we're doing, especially if we start naming vortexes and portals and stuff like that, and we don't even know what they are or what we're doing. We assume we do, but we don't really know. So to a lot of people that are first starting ghost hunting or something like that, I say what you need to do is you need to go slow. You need to know what you're doing. It's like my grandfather used to tell me, you don't jump into a river till you know how to swim. Now, a lot of people jump into rivers without knowing how to swim, and it gets into more trouble.
Well, what could ghosts and spirits be? You talk about. Do you think that some of them could be from a parallel universe or parallel dimension? Are there certain hot spots where ghosts and spirits and other phenomena appear more frequently than other places?
Well, I think there is, but I think there's also something that a lot of people need to be aware of. I don't believe that the apparition I saw was actually a spirit. I think it was more of a residual something from the past that I saw in the future. And, I could go really deep into this with you guys, and why not? But right now we know that the black holes have such a strong gravity, it can rip holes in time. So how do we know that's not affecting us right now? We can see into the past, or the past can see us, or the future can see us. I guess my main question would be for a lot of people that see apparitions is why in the world would a ghost be dressed? They didn't,
That's true.
Yeah, why would they be dressed? I don't think when you see an apparition that's dressed that you're actually seeing a spirit. I think you're seeing something that was there at one time, and you're either, if it is interdimensional, you're seeing something from the past, or you're seeing something from the future through that process. I don't believe that we're actually seeing a spirit, because even if you're religious and you go by what the Bible says, and most people do when they're religious, but every religion that I ever know says that once the body dies, the spirit leaves the body, and it takes on a different form. And I do not believe that when we leave the body at spirit forms, we're going to be dressed in 1980 garbs or 1870 garbs or whatever it is. I don't think we're going to keep our Civil War uniforms on or something like that. I don't think we materialize back with clothes. So I don't think those are actually spirits. And I could be wrong because, like I said, I don't have much knowledge compared to what we're going to find out tomorrow. But
I hope God buys me a new suit. That's all I can say.
That's like a story I heard one time where the interviewer was interviewing this person who was having a ghostly experience where they had moved into a house, and apparently the little lady who had lived there before was still living there, and this person would see this apparition, and and she was dressed and everything like that. Well, they brought a medium into the house, and this medium talked to the spirit, and the spirit said that her natural form was more, as she described it, like a ball of energy, but that she could impress herself upon the mind of somebody where they would think that they were seeing her, and she could make them see, I guess, her as she used to look, or really any way that she wanted to look. So, I just always found that interesting because of, that that question, whether why aren't there more naked ghosts seen, and also the balls of energy that are photographed a lot of times as well, because this spirit said that her natural state was more like a ball of energy.
Well, I've been on a couple shows where I've had people call in and ask me the same thing, and the question I've always asked them is, what was the apparition doing when you saw them? And I'd say 99% of the time, the apparition did the same thing day after day after day after day. I had one lady that called in that said that she saw her husband, who had passed away, would walk across the living room floor and get in his easy chair to watch Wheel of Fortune. And, I don't know if you're in the afterlife, you'd want to watch Wheel of Fortune every day, but that to me is more of a residual haunting of something that the man did for a long period of time over and over and over again. I do believe there's an impression that can be made in the universe we live in, be energy or whatever it is that it's done through our own personal energy, but I believe she was seeing a residual, and most every time I've ever experienced that, it's been a residual haunting, or what they call a residual haunting, in my opinion, of course.
The Hawaiians, the native Hawaiians, believe that we have 7 spiritual bodies, and when we pass on, those spiritual bodies all go in their own different directions, but they represent. They have their own different types of characteristics. Some of them are of very low intelligent, almost more like the animal part of you. It figures a lot into like modern day psychology, with the id and the ego and things like that. But the Hawaiians' explanation for various kinds of hauntings is that these are the lower spirits from you. The higher part of you, your intelligence, your personality, that's gone on to someplace else. But this lower part of you, like you said, it's almost like a recording of your desires and your daily activities and things like that. Those are the ones that tend to stick around, so to speak.
I believe the Egyptians had something like that too, didn't they? If I'm not mistaken, they believe sort of like the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and it could be, because like I said, we don't know really what goes on when we die. We can assume it, we can guess, we can, beat on our chest and tell one person one thing, the other person will beat on their chest and tell us something else. But I personally believe until the paranormal world comes together as one, and we really put our heads together and start doing a detailed recording of what we do and actually have our evidence verified through other things except just our opinions, until that happens, we're going to be in a stall mode as far as people outside of the paranormal world believing, what we represent.
Well, I do agree very much that our current belief systems tend to reflect onto the investigations, because if you look at the way that people would conduct paranormal investigations, 100 years ago, or like I say in the days when the Fox sisters, first started, or then up into where you had full body apparitions in sitting rooms with seances under red lights and things like that. People had a completely different idea of the afterlife and why spirits would visit us than really we do today. So it'll be interesting to see in 50 years, 100 years time for now, what what the ideas will be, and whether or not the phenomena will reflect those beliefs back to us.
And something else that we need to think about as far as that pathway that you're going there, think of the religious aspects to what we do. If we can prove there is life after death, that brings a whole new perspective on religion, where right now religion is under attack. A lot of people just flat out refuse to believe that there is life after death at all, and that we just, absorb our energy into the universe and we're gone forever. But
well, I think it's because the evidence has been withheld. I mean, okay, you have all these shows on TV, which to me are very dubious, because certainly you cannot go every week to a place and find that the place that you're going to is haunted, or see mysterious lights, or hear things moving around. I don't know. I find them kind of just, to me, they're boring. I mean, to be honest with you. Maybe because I lived in a house that had poltergeist phenomena when I was, growing up. But you talk about how our belief system changes. Well, there's a belief system kind of fostered by John Lear, but he's not the only one, that says that the UFOs are actually coming here, or one of their missions is to take our souls over to the other side. Now, at first, this may seem to be downright weird and unsubstantiated, but I've written about in my book on synchronicities about what I call the June 24th enigma. June 24th, 1947 was the first of the modern day UFO sightings. Kenneth Arnold saw 9 gleaming crescent-shaped objects over Mount Rainier, flying information. Everybody knows the story. We repeated it over and over again. But it's not, I guess, very well known that at least a dozen UFO researchers have passed away on June 24th. Now, it's not on a regular basis. It's not every year. But a dozen people on that day that were involved in UFO research is kind of a more than a coincidence, I would say. Now, those among those that have passed away on that particular date would be Frank Scully, who wrote before even Roswell was ever heard of, wrote the book Behind the Flying Saucers, which told about a UFO crash. Then there was Jackie Gleason, who actually had one of the largest collection of UFO books on UFOs and the paranormal.
All right, Tim, I'm going to have to interrupt you here because
I hear that.
We have to go to our break. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
Exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe, exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of Exploring the Bizarre, and tonight our guests are Daryl Edgell and Dean Knight, a.k.a. the Kentucky Ghost Hunter. And Tim Beckley, I just wanted to make a quick comment. You were talking about, before we had to go to our last break, about people like John Lear, and I guess even Kenneth Arnold theorized that UFOs were actually here as, I guess, transports for the newly deceased. And, that is a really old concept, though. I mean, there are a lot of past societies that their myths and legends really had the same thing. And I know this isn't probably, based on anything too factual, but I remember the movie Darby O'Gill and the Little People, when one of the characters was getting ready to die. Like the Grim Reaper showed up, and he had the carriage driven by horses that was going to take him away to the afterlife. And it just sounds to me like these theories about UFOs doing that. It's just kind of modernizing these older ideas. So
weren't the Egyptians going to take people in a boat over the river Nile?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So I mean, it's interesting. Everything old is new again. You've got these old ideas that have been given a new face, a fresh coating of chrome, and except instead of angels, now you've got little guys with little gray guys with big eyes who are taking our souls to the moon. Isn't that what John Lear is thinking, that there is something on the other side of the moon that?
Yeah. Well, and they're also coming with blowtorches. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you wrote about that in the UFO hostilities.
Yeah, I write so much stuff, Tim. It's hard for me to remember sometimes.
Mutilated bodies.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Well, that's off subject here. Yeah. So, well, I wanted to ask Daryl here. We got a question that we had in the previous segment, and Daryl, the question was asking if you think that possibly you may be a medium or maybe psychically gifted, if you have the ability to see like dark spirits and dark energy.
Well, I believe that I have some sort of special gift, yes. There's been many times where we would be out in the cemetery or at a haunted location and actually see the spirits flying through the air. They look like blue electric bolts just going through the air, and they fly very fast. And you can, if you've ever hunted like rabbits and you lead the rabbits, well, that's what we do. When we see these go by, we will lead them just a little bit, and then we will take photographs of them. We have hundreds of photographs that we would love to show people. We've made a couple books, and they're just out of this world. Yes, I do believe that we have the ability to see the spirits, and I have been training Linda Wolfley to open up her eyes and open up her mind to actually see these, and she is very good at it now. And her and I, we are a good team out in the field, and we just have more years, more time to get even more proof and evidence, and hopefully we will get something extraordinary on film. And that's my main goal. That's my life's work, is to do that.
Now, when it comes to paranormal photography, I mean, how did you get interested in trying to use cameras and photography to assist you in ghost hunting? I know your bio said that you taught photography in college. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. I taught peripherals. Digital photography. It was fun. I loved it. I've taken, oh God, so many pictures of in my whole life. And once I started getting into the paranormal, I got orbs, and I thought that was the best thing in the world. Starting out very young. And then the orbs started getting, monotonous, started getting so many. Even though I get extraordinary pictures of orbs, I bet you I have deleted at least 500,000 orbs in the past year or so. We just get bombarded with them. My thing is, when I first got my good picture of spirit smoke, that has been it. That was the coup de grace. That just turned me on like you wouldn't believe.
Okay, what's spirit smoke? Tell us what that is.
The ectoplasm, the smoke that emanates from spirits. I believe, my thought is, the smoke is either before they turn into a full apparition, or the after they were in the full apparition. In other words, my belief is that the spirit smoke is catching them either before or after. And there are just so many. I have what you call a protector. She lives in Houston, Texas. And the protector protects me from all the evil stuff that I come in contact with. She told me about 3 weeks ago. She says, "You are wearing me out." I said, "What?" She says, "All the places that you go and all the things that you do, you run into a lot of dark spirits, a lot of dark entities. And it's just wearing me out, keeping you safe." So the entities, the smoke, I believe, is just catching them either before or after they actually, were in the full figured apparition, or before or after. That's what I think.
Now, can you see the smoke with the naked eye before you take the pictures, or do you take the pictures and the smoke appears on the film?
The most part, probably 90% of it, I see it with my eye. You can actually see the blue, the whole sky in a certain area is just illuminated with bright blue light, and that's when we will take a picture. That's why I say when we see it, we lead it. Like you lead a rabbit, mm-hmm. And when we actually see this going on, we take a picture of it, and we have caught so many on film.
Yeah, well, Daryl, you talk about this appearing as like smoke. Are you familiar with the legend of the jinn?
I've read a little bit about the jinn, but as far as, go ahead.
Well, they are supposedly made of fireless smoke, and that's how they appear to most members, usually of the Islamic faith. But they could also be appearing here, and we think of them as ghosts, perhaps, because they certainly are apparitional.
Mm-hmm.
We've had Rosemary Ellen Guiley on, who's written pretty extensively about the jinn, but they appear as, like I say, fireless smoke. Just a sidebar. Yeah. Anyway, that's something to consider and maybe to look into. Why would they? Okay, why do ghosts appear transparent?
Is this open to everybody?
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
Well, you got to understand, and this is just my opinion again. Transparency, if energy is transparent, and the firm belief in the paranormal right now is that a spirit or whatever is energized, is energy, and I think they're transparent a lot of the time because of the fact that it's energy.
Yes.
I think that's a simple answer.
Yes, and I agree with that. It is. It's nothing but energy. And I also have had my cameras a lot of times go completely dead, and my flashlights. They suck up energy. That's what they thrive on. And yes, I agree. It's spooky being somewhere, and your lights just go dead, and you're trying to find your way, back to the car or whatever.
But on the other hand, you have either one of you can answer this, or both of you in order. Do you have a ghost or spirits that take on physical form and can leave footprints or handprints on windows or something to that effect?
Well, I believe they can, because the entity that lived with us, it was able to move things. It was able to touch. It was able to pull the covers off. So why couldn't it leave a footprint, say like in the sand or in sprinkled baby powder or something? Why couldn't it leave a fingerprint somewhere?
Well, I've got an actual experience of that, and I believe I've been trying to think of where it was at. I think it was at Thornhaven this happened, but when I go out with different groups. I don't really have a crew that's my own crew. And once again, I was going out with Stone Creek Preternatural out of Cincinnati, and they have a medium there that's a really good friend of mine. Her name is Denise Wilkins, and Kevin Quadman's their lead investigator. But make a long story short, she was upstairs, and she was sensing children. And when she came downstairs, somebody said, "What's that on your back?" And Kevin turned around and put a light on it. She actually had a child's handprint on her back. And that picture is actually on the website, KentuckyGhostHunter.com, if anybody wanted to look at it in the picture section. But you can see a complete, and it's like somebody put their hand in dust and then put it on her back. So I don't know how to explain that, but they actually left a fingerprint on her back, and Kevin put his hand up next to hers to show that it was a child's handprint. So I know 100% positive they can leave marks like that, or they can leave their impressions if they really want to. I don't know how they do it, but I know they do it.
Well, yes. It's funny that you should mention that, because just this evening I'm working on our next book, which is on, what would you call it, like the sexual relation between aliens and humans. And we have a lady, Eva, down in, I believe she's in Texas too, if I'm right, who has written a book called The Love Bite, and she's investigated many, many cases of this nature. And apparently, under fluorescent light, she is able to find the markings on people's bodies that these, let's call them entities, for a lack of a more sufficient term. And some of the people, she says, have actually been branded by what she describes as aliens, but they could be paranormal or some other sort of phenomena, and people interpret them accordingly. Of course, throughout history, we had all these stories regarding succubus and incubus that supposedly came at night and mated or made love or molested human beings. So again, what's old is made new again.
Well, now in the paranormal world, I'm sure you guys have heard about this, but there is and my wife Chris, she's had this experience several times. I think 2 or 3 times now, where an entity will touch us or go through us and leave 3 marks on us. They call them scratches, and they say it's demonic and everything. But there's 2 different theories to that. One is they're demonic, and another is if you're dealing with energy and the energy pushes against you, we don't have a clue what that effect will have on our body. That could just be a spirit or entity just trying to say, "Hey, here I am," and the results of them touching you causes those 3 marks. But that's sort of like a branding thing too. There's a lot of people in the paranormal world that get those.
Again, it's interesting to note the similarity between ghostly phenomena and the UFO phenomena. In fact, I think more and more people are beginning to see that there is a certain unity or correlation between pretty much everything that goes on in the.
Well, if you think about it, it's basically the same thing. If we die or we pass on and we're not meant to be here, we're really aliens here. So if you think about it, it's the same exact thing. If they're, you know, and I'm saying if, I believe in it, but some people don't. But if there is, you know, angels and stuff like that, they didn't come from Earth. They came from somewhere outside of Earth. So by definition of science, those are aliens too. So, you know, it does correlate.
We have a close friend and associate of the show, and I'm not an overly religious person. I've had a few ministers who were friends of mine, mainly because they were interested in UFOs. But Reverend Barry Downing has written a book on UFO revelations that we published recently. And he sees most of the things, or a lot of the things that took place in the Bible, as actually being physical in nature. In other words, the angels were real. I mean, they weren't just something that could materialize in your home, although I guess they could do that too. But they were flesh and blood, and they might have come down in a UFO. And if Jesus really was lifted into heaven, he could have gone there in some sort of what we would call a spaceship. So maybe heaven is really up among the stars.
Well, you have to, let's go really deep here since you brought it up.
Yes. Okay.
You have to think of it this way. Before the universe was created, what was out there? Nobody really knows. But science now knows that the Earth's being or not the Earth, but the universe is being bombarded by dark matter on a constant basis. So that probably gives us a good detail that outside of our universe is another universe that's mostly made up of dark matter, which does not have light, because light really can't go through dark matter. That's why they call it dark matter. And if that be the case, when God created light, it would have been the first light, because of outside the universe there wouldn't have been light. So if there is angels, that's where they came from, was actually outside of our universe to here on Earth, which means that, people say they're dark spirits. Well, that would kind of correlate with what you could consider an angel that has fallen from somewhere that doesn't have light to be. And then, we have shadow figures, we have all this other stuff, and if you're religious like that, like I said, this is really deep, but you could correlate or say, hey, look, that's why we see shadow figures and we have entities that hide in the dark here, because they just don't like the light.
I think that right now they're saying that the universe is made up of at least, 70 or 80% of dark matter and dark energy. So, yeah.
I mean, if 2 and 2 equals 4, you should keep with it, I guess. It's like my grandpa used to tell me, sometimes I'm on the wrong page of a 2-page novel, but sometimes I'm on the right page.
I like that.
It just determines your philosophy, I guess, whether you're on the right page or the wrong page, or your beliefs, I guess.
Daryl, I wanted to ask you, we're coming up, we got about 4 minutes until our break. When you go out ghost hunting with your cameras, what kind of cameras do you use? I mean, use anything special, polarizing filters, infrared, things like that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Linda, she uses a $130 Luminex camera. I think it's 8 megapixel. I have a Canon 16 megapixel Sure Shot, and I just bought a really nice Canon camcorder. So you don't have to go into high dollar equipment to get these things. Just ordinary cameras, 8 megapixel, or and bigger. I would suggest to anyone that wants to do this. No special filters. Just out of the box, out of the store camera.
Mm-hmm. Have you used film cameras? I mean, is there any difference between digital and a film camera? On the ability to be able to capture paranormal images?
No, there isn't. I have had SLRs. I have the film cameras and caught smoke. I've caught orbs. No, really, there isn't. I went to St. Augustine, and I had a really good ghost picture, and I went to I knew what it was, but I was wanting a professional's opinion. So I took it to a photographer, and I said, "What is this?" He looked at it, and he says, "Well, it couldn't be added." He says, "Whatever was on your film, it got in between, the camera lens and it, so whatever you take a picture of, like entities, orbs, that's usually, like WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get,
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to have Photoshop or any of that stuff to add it on. Orbs and spirits are real, and like my website, says, I am trying to prove it each and every day, and a lot of people, they don't believe spirits or orbs. They don't believe some of the pictures, but I'll tell you what, everybody here in LaGrange Park, Illinois, I've just got about 98% of them all convinced that there is afterlife and it's real, buddy.
All right. Well, we need to go to our break because that's definitely real. So when we come back, we'll be at the last segment of Exploring the Bizarre. So stay tuned for more.
Now back to Exploring the Bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal, your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
All right, welcome back to the final segment of Exploring the Bizarre. And as always, when we reach this point, it just amazes me how fast time goes by when we have such fascinating guests. So, Dean, I wanted to ask you now, Daryl in a previous segment had talked about how at least one time, maybe several times, like unfriendly spirits or maybe just too friendly spirits, I don't know, had actually followed him home. And I've seen some of these reality ghost hunting shows where you have the investigators, and I'll put quotation marks around that word. They'll go to these places and they'll yell at the spirits or call them bad names, or actually even go as far as to invite them to come home with them. And to me, that just sounds that's just so reckless. I mean, have you had similar experiences to what Daryl is talking about, or have you been lucky and kept yourself fairly protected?
Well, I guess I've been lucky and kept myself fairly protected. Like I said, you said that, sometimes ghost hunters are special. My mom used to say I was real special when I was a child, so maybe that's it. They just don't want to go home with me. But I have had some experiences out there where there has been spirits that went home with people. One in particular was a friend of mine up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. He's actually a ghost hunter himself. A couple years ago, he did a couple shows with me. They called him Kentucky the Singing Ghost Hunter because he was a karaoke guy. And a terrible voice, but he did sing sometimes and scared a lot of people away. That's a totally different subject. But he was at the Octagon House in Franklin, Kentucky, and they had a spiritual medium there who, I think she does it like every year around Halloween. You know how these haunted houses have their big Halloween haunted house extravaganza or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
And he was there doing that, and he walked around with her, and then when he went home, he woke up in the middle of the night choking, and he said that he looked up and there was a dark entity above him that was just standing there, and he said it looked like a Civil War soldier that had been injured, world famous headless horseman, I guess, but it was standing above him, and he told her that it had to go home, and his girlfriend woke up and said that he was talking in somebody else's voice, and the gentleman told me that what happened was that he began speaking, but he didn't know what he was saying, and it wasn't his voice. So there is instances I know of that, and there's other things that happen like that too. But there is a lot of that going on that people don't really realize. And the ghost shows, I mean, I got to say something about it. Those are probably the worst things for the paranormal world you could ever think of.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, because I have, and I'm not going to mention any shows, but I've went behind some of those shows and done investigations, and the people that own those haunted places they go to can tell you some serious stories about when they don't catch stuff, what they do to catch stuff down the road, and they call it dramatization or something.
Dramatization,
like that. Yeah, to keep the ratings up.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on a lot of ghost hunts, and I've been on a lot of investigations, and those guys catch more than anybody I've ever seen in my life, and they get possessed more than anybody I've seen in my life, and they get scratched more than anybody I've seen in my life. And my personal opinion is they're probably one of the worst things for the paranormal world there is, because when people that don't believe look at those things, the first thing they say is, these guys are crazy. And that just kind of delegitimizes everything we do. I just had to put that plug in there because you guys were talking about shows and stuff. But
no.
Yeah, back to what you were saying, though, it is and I tell this to everybody, and I said, like at the beginning here, we don't know what we're dealing with. And a lot of times, and I'm sure the other guests will verify this for us too, when people go out and they take photographs of stuff, they really need to know what they're photographing before they present it as evidence, because, and I was even mistaken. When I first started out, I took some pictures. I thought, oh, look I've got this smoke cloud that they're talking about. But then I realized I took the pictures in 30-degree weather and I was breathing. So what I was actually taking pictures of is my own breath. And professional photographers like our guest doesn't do things like this, but a lot of newcomers, they'll see stuff like shadow figures. And well, just an example of that, just recently we went to a school, I'm not going to name the name of it, and they were saying they had this shadow figure that would go in front of this door back and forth, and I reproduced the shadow figure in 2 seconds because there was a metal plate inside the door, and down the hallway there was a door that opened up and the light would shine through it. So when you walked in front of that metal plate, somebody behind you, guess what? You have a shadow figure. So it's important, if you're going to take pictures and you're going to present evidence out there, don't be a reality show. Do the real thing. Do your research. Protect yourself, because you don't know what you're dealing with. And above all, like I said before, don't try to swim in a river if you don't know how to swim. Learn the facts before you go. So.
Well, I think a lot of people who see these reality shows and start their own, say like ghost hunting club or whatever you would want to call it, end up becoming disillusioned because they don't get the results that they're seeing on television. And
let me give you an example of that real quick. The spirit box that everybody hears about, how they'll put it, and you know what I'm talking about, the box that goes through the radio frequencies. What a lot of people do not know when they use a spirit box, and they do not show it on the shows, is that spirit box picks up all kinds of radio stations. Mm-hmm. You can hear the radio stations as it goes through. It's all, like if you watch a certain reality show, they use it a lot of times. You never hear anything but static, and then all of a sudden you'll hear a noise come out. That's edited. You will hear things that you think are ghosts, and they're not. They're actually radio programs that are. I had one person that thought they heard a ghost through the spirit box, and I'd listened to it real close, and it said something like WKCT. Well, that's not a ghost, that's a radio station. And there is a technique that we use right now, and actually Denise Wilkes is the one that created this technique. But a lot of people, if you're first starting out in ghost hunting, if you have one person that holds the spirit box and actually puts a headset in it and listens, and the other person speaks, whatever the person hears, they can blurt out the answer, and that will correlate what you're saying. So if you say, is there anybody here? And then the person says, my name's Jack, and they heard that on the spirit box, they have no idea what question you asked. So then you can verify whether you're actually communicating or you're hearing a radio station.
We had on a guest not too long ago. They've got a YouTube channel called what was it, Tim? Like the naughty ghost box or something like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But they put up these the results that they get where the spirit or whatever it is that's talking through them uses language that's not really appropriate, and definitely language that you wouldn't find being broadcast over most radio stations.
And that's something you got to be very careful of too. When you have a spirit that starts cussing you, you're probably not dealing with a very happy spirit. I don't think they go out there just to cuss you out for no reason. There's a reason they do it. And usually when you experience that, you're in trouble.
I could throw it right back at him. You want to cuss me out? I'll come up with some words you never got in your. You have in your.
But then that's going to get edited out by the editor, so it doesn't do you any good. You just might as well take it like a man.
No, yeah, we're the editors. We cut nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not regulated by the FCC. I mean, we can, and we broadcast from Las Vegas. What could you possibly say?
Well, that's why everybody cusses there, because when you lose so much money and you pass on, you're going to be mad.
Oh, hey, I was in the town. There's a town that's supposed to be the most haunted town in America. I'm sure some people, some places make that claim, where there are more spirits than there are humans. It is the town of Jerome, Arizona, which is halfway between Tucson and Sedona. And it's known for the ghosts of gunslingers, firefighters, because there were 5 different fires over a period of about 100 years ago, 100 years or so, and people who died in the asylum there, or went crazy there, because there was an asylum that I think is now a hotel. And furthermore, the ghosts and spirits of prostitutes, because there were a heck of a lot of prostitutes in the town of Jerome to service the gentlemen. It was known as one of the richest mining towns in America until the town slid down the side of the hill. And that wiped out a lot of people too. Not as many as the fire, but they slid right on down. But you can visit the town today, and they will take you on what purports to be authentic ghost tours of Jerome. And so there are more spirits there than there are the living.
Well, Kentucky is full of ghost areas like that too, and the reason that it's like that is because, let's take the Mammoth Cave region, for example, and when you go to these coal countries where the coal mines have taken over, there used to be communities at these places. We're getting ready to investigate one here called Paradise City, which is on, I want to say Rough River, no, it's on Green River in Muhlenberg County, Kentucky. And there was actually a town there with a haunted hotel, but when Peabody Coal took it over, they wiped the town out completely. They left the old Civil War prison there, which used to be a steel mill, and it still has the chimneys and stuff to it. We're going to investigate that. But we've got a lot of haunted locations like that where there's a lot of restless spirits because they left the cemeteries. They tore down the churches, and they tore down the towns, but they had to leave the cemeteries. And you could be walking through, especially in eastern Kentucky and in the coal countries, you can walk through the woods and actually come up on cemeteries that are just been overgrown with trees and stuff. And they're good places to ghost hunt. I don't think I'd want to live there for the eternity, but they're good places to ghost hunt.
So, Daryl, when you are getting ready to go out to a location, I mean, how do you prepare? I mean, what do you do to make sure that you're ready for any likelihood when you're going to an investigation?
Well, I make sure that my equipment is up and running good. The batteries are fully charged. When I go out, I try to debunk my own self. I try to I make sure that the lens on everything is wiped probably about every 5 minutes or so or less. I wipe them down. I keep my camera when I take pictures at arm's length. Even like the Kentucky ghost hunter said, a lot of people will film their own breath. If the ghost hunters would keep their keep the camera at arm's length, then there's no way, especially when I've learned to breathe shallow, because I do everything in my knowledge to make sure that what I'm doing is absolutely correct. So, when I take a picture, that picture is absolutely 100% what I'm taking a picture of, without the possibility of breath, a smudge on the lens. I double check myself every moment that I'm out on a location, because my thing is I want to prove to people that what they're seeing is real, and I go to great lengths to make sure that what I'm doing is absolutely correct, without question, without anybody coming back, well, this and that and that and that. No, this is true and this is real, because I've been doing this for so long that I do everything according to, as you say, as perfect a picture as you could possibly get.
All right, we have a question from Barbara, and Barbara wants to know, and this goes out to both of you. Do your guests think spirits are attached to buildings or objects? And then she says, there have been reports of buildings being haunted and then torn down. Do these spirits now leave, or will they attach to the new building?
Well, I believe that the spirit, if just say hypothetically, if they had died in the house or on the property, my knowledge is they hang around for, well, until they move on to whatever plateau that they're moving to. Because I've visited a lot of old places, and they got torn down, and you go back again and you still see orbs and shadows and different figures. I would say they still hang around no matter what.
All right, Dean, what about you?
I've experienced some things as far as what they call attachments to objects and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And what I have, a lot of times what I found, I've voiced this opinion to some people in the past, and if you think about what I said before about dark entities, they have a hard time dealing with light. A lot of times attached to objects, you're dealing with an energy particle. You're not dealing with an actual person. A lot of people confuse that, which energy, you can manipulate energy. If I had a can of Coke sitting here, if you were a large ball of energy, you could actually condense yourself and go into a can of Coke. And the reason I brought that up is because a lot of times these entities that can't stand the light will actually enter into objects where it's darker, so they can survive without, I would say, I don't want to say pain, because I don't believe it's pain. I don't really know what it is, but they can survive in dark places. So a lot of times, like you see a doll that's possessed by something, the reason I think of the possession is because something's went inside of it to keep out of the light. That's why you see mostly dark figures, shadow figures at night, is because they're hiding during the day, and they don't really want to come out during the day because it affects them somehow that doesn't affect regular things. So when a haunted house is consumed or whatever it is by spirits or several spirits, I believe when it's torn down, they'll either enter into an object or go into another location. And this area that we're getting ready to investigate called Paradise, the haunted hotel was torn down. And as soon as the haunted hotel was torn down, then the Confederate prison became the haunted location. So that's kind of moving from one spec to another. In my opinion, like I said, I could be wrong because we really don't know anything yet, but that's how, from my investigations, I see it.
Hey, if you could do that investigation on a Thursday night at 10 to midnight Eastern, we'd be happy to broadcast at least a part of it. I think that would be an interesting
well, let me tell you about this place
for
you guys.
Listeners.
Yeah, let me tell you about this place. So we were going to go by boat, but we found out because the town was built right on the river. But over the time, the ledges has corroded, and it's now a sheer mountain. So we're going to have to walk through the woods 1.5 miles with all our equipment to get there. Yeah. But once we get there and light the fire, because there's no electricity, we'll be glad to call you guys up on cell phones. They do have cell phone service.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's a Thursday night, just give us an advance notice, and we'll do a segment at least.
I'd be glad to, because we've also got there's going to be a couple of we're probably going to do it in October, and there's a couple of newspapers going with us and some other people too. So
wonderful, good for you. Now, do you have a YouTube channel?
No. You know, I've been asked to do that. I've been asked, but I just haven't done it yet. We probably are going to do it, but we do have, like, KentuckyGhostHunter.com is our website, and you can find the Kentucky Ghost Hunter on Facebook, and we got a group called the Kentucky Ghost Hunter. So, you know, sometimes we put videos on and we don't, but we're about 2 inches away from being talked into doing a YouTube.
Okay. Well, you know, we make a YouTube. This show is not only archived on KCORradio.com, which of course originates the show every Thursday night, but we also are archived or put up on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, and we have our own YouTube channel, which is Mr. UFO Secret Files, and there our associate Peter adds some graphics. So we'll probably, with your permission, both of you, hook up a couple of photos from your website, and as you talk and people listen to you, they will be able to see some of the graphics that involve what we've spoken of this evening. So we like to keep it visual. Our audio, we like to keep our audio as visual as possible.
Whatever that means. Well,
I
Tim,
will tell you on the website, guys. There's that smoke that talking about. We've got one of those on our website too, which actually shows a couple faces in it. That's very distinct. So,
well, Richie Blackmore must have been thinking that when he wrote the song "Smoke on the Water."
I think that was fog, but we can use it as paranormal.
That's the worst joke I've ever told, Tim. I think
that's pretty bad.
And, you know, I hate to say this. I guess he's still alive, but Richie Blackmore is one of the few artists that I ever walked out of a live concert on, because they were known. What was it? Deep Purple, right? They were known for having the loudest audio of any, I guess, performing group. And I was either backstage or in the first couple of rows, and boy, that was loud. So if there was smoke on the water, I never saw it.
All right, Tim, we got about 3 minutes left in the program, so we better go around and find out from our guests where our audience can learn more about you, your websites, upcoming appearances, things like that. So, Daryl, let's start with you.
Well, I have a website, paranormalevidenceconsulting.com. It has quite a few pictures that are excellent. I keep adding more pictures to it, you know, whenever I go out and get good stuff. And my partner, Linda Wolfley, she's a wonderful asset to what I'm doing. So I'm glad to have her along.
Very good. Very good.
All right. And Dean, what about you?
Well, it's pretty simple. The website is KentuckyGhostHunter.com. There's no "the" in front of it. It's just KentuckyGhostHunter.com. And if you want to go to Facebook, then the "the" appears. It's the Kentucky Ghost Hunter. And the group discussion also is the Kentucky Ghost Hunter. But I just wanted to give a shout-out to my wife, Chris. I love you very much, and thank you for letting me stay up so late to talk to these fine folks. Usually I'm in bed by 9 out here in the country. But.
Wow. Well, I'm up to 6 in the morning. But, hey, we got to give a shout-out and thank you to our staff, Tina, our producer and engineer, Peter, our animator and YouTube chieftain, Carol, who make sure that I get everything organized as much as possible. Michelle, Helen, I'm sure that I've forgotten somebody, and I guess our friends in the other worlds, the paranormal universes. Tim, and you, anybody you'd like to shout out to?
Oh, well, I was just like to remind everybody that when they have a chance, go visit our website, which is conspiracyjournal.com. I don't get a chance to tell people that very often, and that sign up for our free newsletter, because it's been going on now for, gosh, I think almost 20 years at this point. So,
wow. And also too, Tesla's secretlab.com, because Tim has written probably the best-selling book on Nikola Tesla in the last few years, The Lost Journals of Nikola Tesla. And we have a new book out on the Tesla's purple energy plates. And you can get, of course, all of our books on Amazon. Our blogs are up there. Just go to Amazon and type in Timothy Beckley and look for my photo and my top hat. And you all have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you next week. And we'll have some great guests coming up in the future, including Calvin Parker.
You've been listening to Exploring the Bizarre with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. They're taking back the night by jetting non-stop across the cosmos in search of the truly bizarre and totally unexplained, with you as their co-pilot. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on Exploring the Bizarre and hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz, check out their KCOR Digital Radio Network page. Follow their YouTube channel at MRUFO 1100. Exploring the Bizarre.